It is a gorgeous morning here. And yeah, I'm just barely getting myself pulled together. I may look a little bit rough, but that's okay because I feel really, really good. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and others who shall remain nameless. You know exactly who you are. You know exactly who you are. I have noticed a tendency among young Earth creationists still to treat one Mr. Charles Darwin as both A, the sole source of everything we know about evolution, and B, as some sort of messianic Jesus analog who is incapable of doing wrong and who must be worshipped for reasons that I still haven't figured out yet, but apparently, according to creationists, he has to be worshipped. Wow. The reality is that Charles Darwin is a famous dead person who is one of three people, the others being Wallace and Huxley, who figured out that sexual selection was an important driving force in evolution, and who paved the way for our understanding of evolution that we now have. But yeah, we have since moved on. We have moved on to genetics, discovered by Gregor Mendel, and we have since moved on to the modern synthesis, which has been worked up by Zimmer. Carl Zimmer, yes, you may have heard of him. And of course, Theodore Dobohansky, a major evolutionary biologist and a devout practicing Christian, whose famous words, "Nothing in biology makes sense except in light of evolution." Yes, the man was a devout practicing Christian. Something to think about. But of course, explaining this to young earthers is like pulling teeth. They don't want to hear about it. They want to cling to their insistence that evolution, A, requires atheism, and that B, it is an alternate religion for atheists, centered on the worship of a man named Charles Darwin, who is invariably a boogeyman figure. Yeah. That's the thing, though. Creationists believe that evolution depends on Charles Darwin, and fail to comprehend that no, it doesn't. Evolution depends upon evidence. Our understanding of evolution depends upon evidence. Darwin has nothing to do with it. We've moved so far past Darwin that he is now a historical footnote. Except to young earthers who believe that not only did Darwin invent evolution, but that he came up with the Big Bang model for the origin of the universe. And that is even more outrageous because, well, yeah, by the time the Big Bang model came out, Darwin had already been dead for 40-odd years, 45, almost 50 years. And again, it was a Christian, Georges Lemaitre, Father Georges Lemaitre, a Christian clergyman, who figured out the Big Bang model, which is totally separate from evolution. It is cosmology, which is a totally separate science from biology, which is the science that rests on our understanding of evolution. Evolution is biology. The Big Bang is cosmology. They are not related. The origin of the universe, and indeed the origin of the planet Earth, are all part of cosmology and astronomy, which are both related to each other. Evolution is part of biology. It's part of what living things do once they are established. But I think it's the one word, origins, that is found in the title of one of Darwin's books, Origins of Species, that has confused creationists, because instead of looking to understand the book, read the book and understand it, what they do is they look for keywords. Sorry, hat's going everywhere. Yeah. They scan for keywords, and the keyword that they found was origins. And they build a fantasy on this keyword. And this is a common creationist blunder, looking for keywords to build a fantasy upon instead of actually reading the fucking book. Yeah. Young Earth creationists. Ah, fuck. The reality is, of course, that when Darwin was a child, a guy by the name of Jean-Baptiste Lamarck had come up with another model for evolution based on the idea of heritability of acquired characteristics. And this Lamarckian evolution was soundly refuted very early on, only to be dug up in the 20th century in the Soviet Union and in Maoist China as Lysenkoism. Yes. Yeah. One of the dark parts of the history of false starts in our understanding of evolution. Yeah. So yes, the idea of evolution was already circulating among naturalists, botanists, and zoologists long before Charles Darwin came along. It was already a thing. What Darwin did is he figured out the mechanism, sexual selection. And he did this alongside of two other people, Alfred Russel Wallace and Thomas Huxley. Yes, Wallace and Huxley, both very instrumental in developing the theory of evolution by sexual selection. So why is Darwin the famous one? Well, that's very simple. Darwin was wealthy. He was from a wealthy background. His family were landowners. They were part of the yeoman class in England, which to other Englishmen, such as Huxley and Wallace, meant, ta-da, Darwin takes priority. So they gave him priority. Because, yes, early 19th century classism was a fucking thing. Yeah. Of course, we now also have the fact that his research was absolutely fucking impeccable. But ultimately, it was the classism, which is why Darwin got to be the priority figure and why creationists are railing against Darwin and not against Huxley or against Wallace. That, and I suppose creationists should be grateful. It's much easier to say Darwinism than it is to say Huxleyism or Wallaceism. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Darwin didn't just not come up with the idea in the first place. He also was one of three people who figured out the answer to the question, how does it work? One of three. So this was not all Charles Darwin. If you remove Charles Darwin from the equation completely, if Charles Darwin just continues with divinity school and goes on to become a country vicar and never does a single bit of scientific research, you still have Wallace, you still have Huxley, you still have all the previous work in the field of evolutionary biology going on up until Darwin and continuing past Darwin. So yes, not only did Wallace and Huxley also figure out sexual selection, but if they hadn't, somebody else would have. Because again, our understanding of evolution does not rest on Darwin. It rests on facts and evidence, any of which can be tested. Darwin just happens to be somebody who's easy to point at. Yeah. So why don't young Earth creationists, instead of bad-mouthing Darwin as a person, making up lurid tales about him, why don't they go over his research notes and repeat his experiments and see if they can find the flaw in his experiments, the flaw in his research? Because if you really want to disprove evolution, you need to do the research. And if you want to disprove Darwin, you need to repeat his research and find his mistakes. And no, just saying, oh, he was mad at his father, so he wanted to stick it to his father, so he invented evolution. No, he had daddy issues, and he was desperately seeking attention, so he came up with evolution. No, he hated God, and he was mad at God, so he came up with evolution. Instead of doing that, why not do the fucking research? Figure out the actual reasons for everything. Present your research to the Nobel Committee, publish it, and have other people go over your research and verify it. Because I guarantee you, if you can find a mistake that Darwin made in his research, if you can find a mistake in any of his experiments, you will win a Nobel Prize. And if you are able to actually refute evolution itself, which has moved so far past Darwin that you need a pair of binoculars looking backwards to see him, that's how much of a historical footnote he is. If you can refute all of evolution, not only will you get a Nobel Prize, you will be the most famous person in the world. You will be the most famous person in the world. If you can refute evolution, you will have created an entirely new scientific paradigm for our understanding of biology, which supersedes all of evolution. They will name schools after you. They will name university wings after you. Yeah. Women will want to have your baby. That is how famous you will be if you are able to refute evolution and prove that evolution is not how life changes over time. So yeah, get on it. Get on it.